Well, good evening, everybody out there. How are we all doing today? It's another Sunday night live stream from the Veg Grower podcast. That's me, by the way. My name's Richard, for those that don't know. Today, he is sat here waiting. I'll put him on the screen so you all know he's there. There is Mr. Stuart
Evening,
Jackson.
all.
Evening, Stuart. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you very much. Nice day, bit cloudy, but nice.
Excellent, excellent. Now, we've got a bit of a Q&A coming up with you today.
We have, yeah.
We'll get into that in just a second, but first of all, let's see if anybody is out there. So first of all, we got Philly SPB saying, hello, everyone. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream is out there saying, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Oracle is out there. What about you, Veg Grower Army? And my very good friend, Stuart Jackson, over on the other outlet. Well, he's not the other outlet. He's right there today. I have a list to ask this man. Me and Millard were to tell the Pensioner Club. So basically, people have been talking about you, Stuart.
Again.
We've got Robert Brailsford. Good evening, all. Sunshine forecast for the next few days. Can't be bad. It would be better if it was at the weekend, is my only complaint about that. Idaho is out there. Hello, Richard and everyone. Good evening to you. Hargrave Gas. Evening, everyone. Hope you've had a good week. I finally got some time to do some gardening today. Feeling much better as a result. Fantastic. It's been a good weekend for gardening, actually. Who else have we got? We've Anna Jones is out there. Good evening to you. Evening, gardener, she says. Chili Kate is out there. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all well. Lots of lurgy in the chili house. Oh, not nice, not nice. My dad's out there saying good evening. Some garden weather coming this week. Well, why can't it be at the weekend? My complaint about that. Rebecca Hawkins, good evening, everyone. These Sundays soon come round. Certainly do, certainly do. Chili Phil is out there. David Williams is out there. And Kate Spratt is saying, good evening, Veg Army. Nicola is out there. Evening, Richard. Aching all over. She's obviously been busy in the garden as well. Alison O'Brien, evening all. Ernie, good evening, Richard and viewers. I hope you and everyone is well. And Digwell is out there saying, I put an electric fence around my garden. My neighbour is dead against it. Boom. Who else have we got? I think that, we've got David Kitchen saying hi all from the East Coast. Graham Arnold is out there saying evening all. There we go. I think that is everybody. So let's get into this tonight, Stuart. Stuart,
Yes.
Where does your background in gardening come from?
I did garden as a kid, like end of protest. Weeding the strawberry beds and things like that. But that's all I did when I was a kid. And then when I left the civil service, I worked for the civil service for quite a while. And then I took medical retirement at the age of 30. And then I sort of bummed a couple of jobs. I worked for a vacuum company, and then kids come along, and then you take the kids to school. Oh, we're short staffed. Can you help us out today? And that's how it all started. That's what, my boy's 25 this time. So 22 years ago, 20 years ago, I went in to help one morning, and I ended up taking the qualifications and learning to teach.
Yeah, so that's the school you teach at,
my previous employment. Previous school. So basically, because I was the man, I was the one outside. I know it sounds really sexist, but it was. I was the one outside doing the physical stuff with the children. So we had a lovely space, turned a bit of space into a garden. I had to learn quite quick. So there's a lot of phone calls to my dad. And then sort of really the first year or two, everything was straight lines, everything was beautiful. And then a parent put their arm around me and said, Mr. Jackson, your garden is gorgeous. And I went, it's not my garden, it's the kids' garden. But it's not the kids' garden because it's too regimental.
Right, yeah.
So then that's when I had to have a rethink and think, well, how am I going to change the way I work? So it basically, that from then on, it was chuck the seeds on the table. Where do the kids want to plant it? When do they, so it was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
But I just sort of learned on the job, really.
Yeah.
And then I got approached by a company called Miracle Grow. You probably all have heard of them.
Yeah.
Would I like to take part in a flower show? And I thought, yeah, anything for a laugh. And it was Chelsea. So I did Chelsea. That was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, or part of a garden. And then I started to take it a bit more seriously. But it's every day's a learning day. Every day's a school day, not just for the kids, but for me as well. So I might sow something I've never sown before. Yeah. So it's got to be child-led. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I know we've had discussions with you. You're very much like, let the children do what they want to do. If it doesn't work, they learn from that. Now,
yeah,
that's a discussion that you'll hear on tomorrow's podcast with somebody about that.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think children should be in a school example like that. If children want to get involved, they should be able to do their own thing, even if it's wrong.
It is. Well, I'm sorry.
Carry on.
It's really important to me that because I work with such young children, that they learn from their mistakes. Yeah. Like we all do. We've all done it. We've all planted things at the wrong time. We've all hoed too vigorously and hoed the tops off the plants, or motivated a bit of patch that's got couch grass in. You learn from them mistakes as you go on. So hopefully, then the children will learn, and by the time they get to my ripe old age, it's they just know what they're doing. And if one child each year takes gardening home, I've done my job.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I can see a couple of people getting some questions in already, which is fantastic. Keep those questions coming in if anybody has.
Yes, please.
So David Williams says, I work in care, Stuart, with vulnerable adults. So want to work with children, but I've heard so many stories. Would love to make a difference to kids when they are able to respond and learn. So I don't know what the stories he's heard, but what would you say to that?
You just got to have an understanding head teacher. That what it boils down to. Our good friend Lee knows my head teacher quite well. She's a bit bonkers at times, but she allows me to spread the word, really. Allows me in my forest school lessons, if I'm doing a gardening lesson, it's not, Stuart, you've got to grow carrots, or you've got to grow this, or you've got to do that. It's what are the children learning from what you're doing today? It's not about what you're growing or what you do. It's what are the children getting out of it? What have the children learned? How can I transfer that into the curriculum? So it's really, when before I went to where I am now, I did gardening clubs at a couple of schools, and I just went in and said, look, how many children have you got that love to be outside? And it's just challenging them children that not necessarily academic, or they're not so good at maths and they're brilliant at English, but they learn better outside. Not every child likes to sit at a desk. No. So I would say, if you want to get into a school, the best way to do it is offer to do a gardening club after school and just charge a couple of quid a week per child. You're not going to make any money, no, but you're going to cover your costs, and the children, the benefit you get is the smiles on their faces.
Yeah.
When it's raining and the rain's dripping down their face and they still want to be outside, you've won.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. So my brother-in-law came to me about, he's a governor at his kids' school, and he was talking about getting a patch of ground there turning into it, school gardening. So that could be something we might be doing in the future, and might be calling upon you in the future for help with that.
You don't need a garden. You just need a patch of ground. It could be concrete. You could put anything you like on it. Like last year, we planted potatoes in old drum kits. They replaced the drum kits, and I was tasked, again, being the man, can you put the drum kits in the bin? I went, no. I've got a use for them. And the kids thought it was hilarious that they were planting potatoes in the drum kit. And it's just getting that passion. It's why should we conform? You know, do something a little bit different. So if you haven't got the ground that you need, then create ground, like a couple of tyres for some potatoes, or you know, a couple of washing up bowl, anything like grow leeks in a washing up bowl. Or if you're near a tyre company, they're quite happy to give you some tyres to build yourself a garden, or ask a builder for some offcuts wood and make a raised bed. You know, people say, oh, it costs too much. Rubbish. I spend very, very little money at school on gardening.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the money side, people are often very happy to help where they can with this sort of thing and get involved with that. Yeah,
and there will be a parent or a grandparent that wants to help as well. And it's just challenging them as well, just to sort of stand back and let the children do it, because it's so easy to jump in and show them the right way. Explain to them what they've got to do, but let them have a go. And if you sow 100 seeds and only 20 come up, does it really matter? Not really. You know, it's really difficult. There's so much you can do without any soil. Like, you know, you can talk about composting. You can make the compost. You can get a compost bin and make your own compost. I know that's going to take a while. You can get a couple of bags to start with, and then once you get the cycle going, it's easy. It's really easy. You know, I've been at my present school 9 years. And the garden the soil is better than it's ever been. Because I just let the kids dig it.
Hargrave Gas, he's made a comment actually. Didn't know Stuart had done a Chelsea garden. Very impressed. Could you go into more about your Chelsea garden you did?
It was 10, 12 years ago. It was, David Dominey, who was the lead garden designer at the time for them, approached a few schools and nurseries to say, would you be happy to grow a few plants and arrange them in something? So I had a suitcase. I had a big suitcase, like an old-fashioned, you know, the ones that are worth a bit in an antique shop. I didn't know they were worth a lot of money at the time, but we planted it up. We put scarecrow, but we used the compost bags to make scarecrows. We planted veggies, and that was like at the center of the garden, and then the garden was built around that. I think there was 10 schools in total. So we all supplied plants, or either plants or planters, and then they come and collected it, and then they built the garden around what we'd built. And it was supposed to be child friendly, but when you actually got there, it wasn't child friendly at all. It was just a beautiful garden that had been designed by a man, but the children had grown the plants, or 90% of the plants. There's a lot of fuss made, and our good friend, you know, Lee will tell you that there's a lot of people input into schools for their own benefit, not necessarily for the children. Like the children I worked with at the time weren't allowed to go; they were too young. So why were we invited in to do it? You know, I was lucky enough to go there for the day and stand in the garden and talk to the public and explain our aspect of the garden. But that's not, yes, I'm passionate at what I do, but if they'd been talking to the 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds that had built it, and, you know, because they were from 4 to 11, the kids that had built it or grown it, and they'd have had a lot more fun, the adults would have had a lot more fun talking to the children. Because you had the teachers that from each school, plus a couple of older children, and David Dominey. Well, I don't know about you, but when I go to a show garden, I want to know who did the work. I want to talk to the people that actually knuckled down and done the work, not come up with a design. Like when I've done other show gardens in the past, yes, the adults have come up with the design, the final design, but the kids have sat around the table and drawn it and decided what they wanted in it. And then you Then you get somebody that's a bit good at art to draw it out. But David Dominic it was all about school gardening in word. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah. So yes, we got a silver gilt medal. Yes, the school that I worked for at the time was really proud of that silver gilt medal. And I was really proud of it at the time. But looking back on it, having done other show gardens with children, the last one I did at Malvern, we got the equivalent of a gold then, because they don't give kids gold medals. We let the children speak to the public, and we tried to stand back and let the children talk about it, because they'd built it, they'd grown it, they designed it. So what was the point of me standing there and waffling for 20 minutes or whatever, when it was far more interesting to listen to the children talk than 3 or 4 adults. So when I started where I am now and I did the Malvern show, that had to be my bottom line again. It has to be child-led, and the children have to be there to talk to the public about it. I've done 5 or 6. I've lost count now. 5 or 6, and each time they've got better. But I've learned, and the children have learned, that if an adult builds it, you get marked down.
Yeah.
And you've seen, you've been in Melbourne, you've seen the kids' gardens. You can tell the ones that have been done by the adults and the ones that haven't.
Oh yeah. There's something. Yeah.
So when I said I'd do it, when I went to my president boss and said, look, I'd like to do Malvern show, and she said, oh, what's it entail? And I told her, and she went, oh, it's a bit. I said, it's not for us, it's for the kids.
Yeah.
And then she asked me what the kids got out of it, and I explained to her about talking to the public and confidence, and and she's, oh, right, let's go for it. What have we got to lose?
Yeah.
So and it's having somebody with that, I don't know how to put it really. That head's got
giving you the free rein, isn't it?
Yeah, it is basically giving the kids free rein. So in the forest school lessons, the 6 or 7 weeks leading up to the show, they did all the hard stuff. They'd already started planting and growing, but then they had to build all I think the last one had a toilet and a table, and it all had to be painted, and the path had to be, you had to sort of put it out at school how you'd want it there. So they had to build it and then make sure that it all fitted together and stick to the criteria. So it is a learning curve. And when you say, oh, it's only a 3 meter square garden, there's loads of plants in 3 meter square garden, loads of plants, hundreds of them, a lot more than you think. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I think that one cost less than 250 quid.
Yeah, that's not bad, is it?
Yeah, we didn't pay for it. We had sponsors to pay for it. Because as you know, I'm a bit tight when it comes to spending money at school.
Yeah.
It's if you want to start a gardening club, the best way to do is to go in and ask to do an assembly. And then, because I went in and I did paper pot making with the kids, and I raced the head teacher against a couple of children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the kids win because they're just so competitive. So the kids win, it makes the teacher look a bit, and the kids get into it. It's not about a tomato or whatever. It's about having a bit of fun first and foremost.
Yeah. Now, Anna Jones is asking a question. For those that have never heard of forest schools, what exactly is a forest school?
Outdoor learning, basically. It is everything we do in class, I take outside. So if we first thing in the morning, we do phonics, which is letters and sounds. So I will take letters and sounds outside. So we will look for today's sound outside. So yes, we might take chalks out with us and write them down as well. But a lot of it is more go out there, talk about it. And then as you move through the age groups, then you start teaching them skills that is more of a life skill. So we will make bows and arrows. We will learn how to light a fire, not just light it, control it, put it out.
Right,
We will learn to cook on that fire. We will learn to make a shelter. We will whittle wood. We will make a whistle. A lot of it is team building, but a lot for the older ones. Like I'll just say to them, I need you to make a vehicle to carry one of your team from one end of the field to the other, but give them no more instructions than that. And I'm talking 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they will build a stretcher to carry somebody from one side of the field to the other. So it's letting them develop their own self, really, outside.
Yeah.
Because again, not everybody learns at the classroom. So we have children with special needs in our school. So you find that their children, that are what we call SENCO, so SEN children, special needs children, will develop a lot better outside because they haven't got the pressure of the pencil and the paper. So you can still get the maths or the literacy into it, but they don't realise they're doing it.
Yeah.
And like you can do geography, history, you can do any subject. And we were learning about Antarctica this week in forest school. So it's the only simplest form is take the classroom outside, but leave the pencil behind.
Fantastic. Now, Hargrave Gas says, because he knows that you have a tendency to do a charity fundraising table with plants.
Yeah.
What plant would you suggest to grow for charity fundraising? What grows and sells well?
March, it's different months. We have different sellers. So March is all bulbs. So I've registered for every seed company, every bulb company. So you get the emails coming every day. And like a couple of weeks ago, there was, I think I'm right in saying there was, fuchsias, 20 fuchsias for a tenner. So I buy them fuchsias and they're this big. Then I grow them on and sell them. So in May, them fuchsias will be ready.
Yeah.
So I will sell them for two or three quid each. In March, it'd be bulbs. It'd be daffodil bulbs. It'd be tulips, or it might be lettuce plants. It depends what the weather's like. So if at the moment it's quite mild, so if I've got lettuce plants in the greenhouse, I will put them on the table. Broad beans, peas, that's the early ones.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking at flowers, April, May, it'd be foxgloves, lupins, all this. I do a lot of cottage gardens, helleborus, hellebores, Christmas roses. I sell a lot of like what they call cottage garden plants because they're so easy to propagate.
Yeah.
Sweet peas, anything that I can propagate fast, and then I will sow. My sweet peas I've already sown mine in like November, December. So I will be sowing November, December, January, February. So I've then got them sweet peas to go all the way through.
Fantastic.
So, but I will buy anything from anybody as long as it's cheap and I can move it on. I do sow a lot of seeds, but because these seed companies are so good now, you can get 72 plug plants for a tenner. It's just as easy for me to do that now. Now I know what I'm doing a bit more. T&M, Van Muren, all the big seed companies, if you register on their website, you will get a daily email with a bargain. And some of them are real bargains. Some of them you learn from.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break from the questions.
Good.
We'll be back in just a moment, but I've got a video. These are the photos that people have sent in from February, the beginning of February. I meant to do this last week, but didn't have time. So we'll be back in just a moment.
Fantastic.
So there we go. That was a few people's allotments of garden. At the beginning of every month, or first of every month, I ask people to take a photo of their allotment in their garden and send it in. And what we're going to do at the end of the year, have a look and see, excuse me, how much everyone's allotment has changed. Don't think in the last couple of months much has changed with everybody's garden. But as we get into March and onwards, I think we're going to start seeing changes. Don't know what you think about that, Stuart. Do you think March?
They look, yeah, definitely March onward. They don't have to look tidy, mind. I just made a note of just put very tidy, made Mike look a bit of a shambles.
Yeah, I know. That's always a trouble with this. There's a saying, isn't it? You don't look into professional gardeners' gardens because they always look so messy.
Oh. Yeah, it's half term, so I can catch up. That's what I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to eventually getting a week off when I can and hitting the garden hard. I did see a couple of questions. I will ask if I do miss anybody's question, please repeat it. I may not see everyone's question at the times, and there's lots of.
They can always send it to me, Rich. If they miss it or if we miss it, they can always send it to me after, and I'm more than happy to do it after.
Yeah, fantastic. So David, he was asking about, he talked about he works in a care home. He was talking about care-wise for the children on getting them gardening. Is there much?
It is. It's really, I find that the well-being of the kids is getting more and more important, especially after COVID. I think parents are beginning to realise that going outside does help, even if it's just a walk in the wood. You know, the kids need to be outside. They don't want to be in front of a computer or a games console. There was a time and a place for them, but if you can get children outside, even if it's for half an hour a week, to give them a little patch of their own, even if it is just a big tire full of soil, they can sow and do whatever they want. They don't have to grow every season. But the one tip that I will give anybody if they're going to do it at school is plan ahead. So if on your table there are tomatoes and cucumbers and whatever, be one step ahead so that you plant this week to hoping that the kids are going to sow next week. So that because children don't have patience because everything is instant. Yeah. So I will already have the onions in paper pots or pots ready to go in the garden at school before they want to sow them. So they'll sow a row or two, and then I'll have some more. And the same with peas, because they won't all survive, because they will plant them too deep or they'll plant them too shallow, and the mice will eat them. So just plan ahead. So if they're going to grow peas, make sure that you've got half a tray full ready for when the ones fail, because there's nothing worse than a disappointed child.
On the mention of paper pots, Adrian actually sent me this question by email, and he said, how did the parsnips do when you started them off in paper pots? I think
they germinate. Yeah, they germinated better. They do germinate better because obviously because I'm like you, I've got clay soil, so it's really hard to sow parsnips straight into clay soil, especially if you've had a dry spell. So if you plant them in, just let them come up. Even if you just put 2 seeds in a pot and you take the weakest one out and then drop it in the ground, you can get them quite close together, but then you're not wasting as many seeds either. Because I think it's about 75% success rate. It's still not 100% because parsnips are terrible, aren't they, for germination? Or is it just me?
No, they have a bad reputation. And I think the germination expected, that's why you get so many in a packet, because their germination rate is so poor.
I think I put four in a paper pot last year. Each paper pot had 4, and then I sacrificed a couple. I think that's the best way forward. And I do the same with carrots. I do the same with leeks. I do most things go into paper pots first. I use toilet rolls for sweet peas and broad beans. A lot of it is just to keep the cost down. I'll be honest. Go on. Sorry, Rich.
You mentioned that you keep the costs down, and I guess that must be one of the most difficult things that, especially we hear all the time at the moment, that schools don't have the money. Um, I mean, I've got a different opinion on that, but that's a whole other subject. But
Yeah.
we don't have the money to buy books and things, so keeping the costs down, surely that must be a good thing to do.
Schools is really hard because there's budgets. Every subject leader has a budget, and your budget, like my budget for forest school, can't be put into the English budget or the maths budget or the history budget. So if I don't spend it, I lose it. So I do spend it, but I try where I can to save money so that the stuff that I'm buying is stuff I want to keep. So tools. So I will replace tools, or I think I've got something in the region of 37 hand trowels or forks for the kids, so I can get a whole class garden if I needed to.
Yeah.
But so every year I will buy a border fork or a spade or a rake or a pair of secateurs, so that the things like seeds I don't buy, not if I can help it. I will write begging letters to the seed companies, tell them how poor our school is, and then they send you half a dozen packets. And most seed companies will send you some seeds. And I've been really lucky because I've had other gardeners send me seeds as well to the school. So I don't think, apart from the potato seeds, I don't think I've bought any seeds so far this year for school.
Yeah. Digwell says easiest if questions are typed in capitals so I can see it, which that's a good
Yeah.
point. I can see the screen all going, there's lots of things going up, so I'm trying my hardest to get everybody out there. But I mean, I know obviously seed companies will give away seeds, but do you ever do anything like seed saving with the kids to get them?
Yeah, we will. We saved our pea seeds last year. But children wanted to store them in the greenhouse, so you can imagine what's up where they've gone.
Yeah,
the mouses had them.
Yeah.
But it's a learning process. It is a learning process. You put your seeds in a tin. You put your seeds somewhere. You don't want to leave them in the polytunnel or the greenhouse. You want to leave them indoors so they're dry and they're safe. Yeah. But like I keep saying, they have to be led. You have to be led by them. They have to make their mistakes to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
So I knew it was a bad thing to put them in a paper bag and just put them in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
But for the sake of 25p seeds or 30p seeds, it was worth the risk. It was worth. We fed the mouse then. I make it. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. I just find some more seeds. It's just not a problem. You have a lot more positive things happen with the children than you do negative. So, like, the children will go home and say to their parents that we were doing this today, or their grandparents that we would sow in peat, and a packet of seeds will appear on my desk. So like I said, I don't buy any. So people will bring them in, and they will bring plant pots in. They will bring tools in. They will, So there's lots of ways to save money. The supermarkets do tokens, especially Tesco. They do the little blue tokens that you put in. Get your school gardening club into that, and then you get a couple of £100. That starts you off. That gets you, quite a lot of compost.
Yeah,
that's my biggest expenditure is string and compost.
Yeah, I think compost is everyone's biggest expenditure.
Yeah.
Something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Sean's Gardening World, he asks, how do schools with gardens cope with not being there for 6 weeks during the summer holidays?
By Lee Skinny Jean Gardener's Gardening Success Plan. Sorry, Lee, that's an advert. But it's true because it's set up for schools. It's great. Like the RHS, we're members of the RHS at school. They send you seeds and they send you the stuff that's going to harvest through the summer holidays.
Yeah.
Lee's plan doesn't. Lee's plan starts at the beginning of term and you harvest at the end of term. Yeah. You harvest again at the beginning of term because you've sown stuff at the end of term, so that you're going to harvest again in September and so on. So the cycle, it's all about planning. It's no point sowing runner beans if you're not going to be there in August.
Yeah.
So we have done in the past, and especially where I worked before, because I only lived around the corner. So you could go up and have a wander, pick a few veg and come home. But, it's not far. I'm only 4 or 5 miles away from school. So I could go in every week, but I don't want to. I work part-time for a reason. But I don't know, it's really difficult, but that's the best way forward. And if you go onto the RHS website and if you're a novice, you see when you need to plant, see when they need to harvest, and then just plan your garden around that.
Yeah.
So
I'm guessing the summer holidays, obviously the key word is summer. That's when they need the most water for the plants as well.
Yeah.
So it would be difficult. And the school system, the summer holidays were set up for children to go home and help their parents bring in the harvests. That's why the 6-week period at that time when plants are generally looking at their best, because they're there. So and I guess in things like, obviously you've mentioned Lee's the Skinny Jean Gardener success plan, school success plan, which is a fantastic thing, I will admit. And even if it gives you the idea of what to keep to moving forward as well. But anybody out there who may not be part of the success plan, obviously we've tried selling them, that's the best way. Any other tips that may not involve that?
I would. Well, he's still got to be child-led. Put the seeds on the table that are going to take. So if you're at April, that it's going to be harvested before the 31st of July.
Yeah.
Or you're going to sow it later on in the spring and the early summer, so you'll harvest it in September and October. So do a Christmas dinner bed, because if you do parsnips, carrots, onions, they look after themselves. Yes, you've got to harvest your potatoes, but I left my potatoes in all summer last year. They weren't very good at school because they were only watered about 3 times through the school holidays.
Yeah.
But the butternut squash were amazing.
Yeah.
And that's probably why the potatoes didn't do so well, because they just took over the ground. Yeah. But I think you've just got to have a look to see when you need to harvest it. So don't think, it's going to be harvested end of July, beginning of August, because you're not going to be there. So try to grow stuff that you can harvest either just before the summer holidays or just after. But the Christmas dinner bed's the best thing ever, because you can grow it, and then come the second week in December, you can sell it to the parents.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, but if your son comes home from school and says, Mum, Dad, we've got half a pound or a pound of carrots, a pound of parsnips, and a bag of potatoes for £2, you're going to jump at the chance. Because your son or daughter's grown it, rather than go down to the supermarket and pay 19p a bag. But at least it's 95% chance it's going to be organic, because schools can't use any pesticides.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be grown safely, etc., etc. Yeah.
And the kids are going to eat the veg.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's sprouts, parsnips, carrots, potatoes, onions.
Now, Jenny's asking a question. When I ran a gardening club, I got the local garden centre to donate everything. Very willing, with a thank you on the school's newsletter and website, tool seeds, bulbs, etc.
Yeah.
Really worth a try.
Yeah, it is brilliant. When I started first, I had a very nice lady that I know very well that worked in the local garden centre. I went and had a cup of coffee with her one day in the garden centre, explained what I was trying to do. I had a load of stuff donated. And it's just a matter of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. When I went to Ashton first, because I work at Ashton Kane School, they have nothing, absolutely nothing. No greenhouse, no polytunnel, nothing.
Yeah.
They had a garden that had been used 20 years before, and obviously things have changed and they didn't want to do gardening. And when I come in, we've got a greenhouse, we've got a polytunnel, and the garden's back in use. And we got new beds as well. So it's just once you get the children motivated and the teachers motivated, it does tick over itself. It will, it does tick over. A lot of it's fear factor.
Yeah, I remember when I was at school, we had one teacher who was the only person who really drove the gardening at school, but she would forgive every student geraniums to grow in a
Mm.
local village fete.
Yeah,
And pretty much all the kids got involved in that and kept the village fete going because we were having to display off our geraniums. Um,
yeah.
I think once that teacher left, the village fete started to lose its uh, yearly people crossing the threshold and getting involved.
And this is another good thing about, like, we keep saying about Lisa Sex Plan, but the lesson plan is there, so anybody can do it. So once you've done a year, it doesn't have to be Lead Success Plan, it can be the RHS. Once you've done that lesson once or twice, because it doesn't matter if you're sowing a cucumber seed or a courgette, whatever it is. Once you've sown one seed, the process is exactly the same for the next seed.
Yeah.
So it's just because when I do my farcical lesson, the class teacher, the class I'm teaching comes out with me, so they're watching what we do. So hopefully, if I'm not there one week, they can do it as well.
Yeah,
because it's just, and keeping the records of what's worked and what hasn't, the same as we would at home. Last year, my courgette, I must be the only person in the country that courgettes was rubbish at home.
Yeah.
But I learned from that because I put them in the wrong place. They obviously got too much sun and didn't like it, or they got too wet, one or the other. But I will learn because I'll put them in a different place this year, and hopefully they will thrive. But it's trying to reassure the non-gardeners that they're not going to get hurt. They're not going to, you might learn something. You might actually enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jenny would like to donate some seeds. How does she send them to you?
She can send them by the school. I will put my school address on the Facebook page later.
Fantastic. That's
okay. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. I did see a comment from Nicola. She didn't do this in capitals, so I just caught it. Stuart mentioned twice about old tyres. I listened to one of the radio garden programs, and they said do not use tyres as they are synthetic and leach chemicals.
Yeah. So some of me will agree with that. But if you're on a budget, then use something else. If you really don't want to use plastic, find 4 pallets, take the pallets apart, use the pallets as your sides of your bed. Use old wooden boxes, crates if you can get them. Use anything else. And I'm not a fan of tyres at all. I wouldn't have them at home. But at school, they're easy. If the children fall on them, it doesn't hurt. If I've got a big railway sleeper bed and they fall on a railway sleeper, it hurts. That's the reason I use tyres.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I didn't even think about
and it is health and safety. You've got to think, because you're dealing with children, you've got to think of the health and safety aspects. So you weigh it up. Yes, it's plastic. Yes, it's rubber. It's going to weigh it up against everything else. And to get, say, I don't know, 2 railway sleepers, 1 tyre cost me nothing. 2 railway sleepers cost me 60 quid.
And that's cheap at the moment.
Yeah. So, you've got to weigh it up. Is the risk, you could always line it. You can use weed suppressant, or you can you can line it.
Yeah.
So there's ways around it if you don't, if the rubber worries you. But as you go down the line, the rubber is getting more and more friendly to the environment, where a tractor tire from 20 years ago would have been far more poisonous than they are now.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. I mean, Digwell does say, numerous permaculture websites do say it's okay to grow in tyres, and that the leaching of chemicals is a myth with modern tyres. So that kind of, permaculture is very much organic and reuse and recycling. So that is a very good point.
Or if there's some houses being built around you, go and speak to the supervisor on the building site. Say, have you got some scrap wood I can have? Tell them what you're doing. They're more than happy to give you a couple of pallets, probably, to get rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I used pallets when I first got my allotment to build all the beds. They did, after a while, rot away, and we
Yeah.
never replacing them, but they did last. They did the job.
If they last a couple of years, you're then generating your income by selling some of the veg to the parents to replace them with better wood.
Yeah,
That's the way, that's the way to go forward if that's what you want to do. But no, I get the point of rubber. I get the point of the tyres, but I have to weigh it up against the health and safety aspect with the children.
yeah, it's a very, very good point. David Williams has actually thrown a question out for everyone. He says he's sown several cold weather plants indoors that are ready for moving to the greenhouse. Do I need to acclimatise them before the greenhouse move? I'll leave this one for you, Stuart.
Well, I would say yes, because I'm the same. I've got some peas about 10 feet away from me in the conservatory, and they're in the conservatory because it's cold in the evening. So it hopefully slows them down a bit. But they're going to have to go out. They're going to have to go outside soon. So I will have to take them out this week. Take them out days when I'm at home, and I remember to bring them back in again. But they're going to have to go to the greenhouse in a couple of weeks because I need to put something else on that shelf.
Yeah.
I
mean, a lot of people I hear, a lot of well-known gardeners, shall we say, are disputing the need for acclimatizing when you put your plants outside. Personally, I think it would be quite a shock.
Well, just go outside without a coat on. How do you feel?
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it. If you wouldn't go out there without a coat on, if you can put them out and you can cover them up and keep them above freezing, you probably, or above 1 or 2 degrees, you'd probably be all right. But then if you lose them, you've lost that 2 or 3 weeks that you've just been growing them, haven't you? So it's better just not to take the risk and just harden them off slowly.
Yeah. Ian Beddoes, he's asked a question, not in capitals, but I saw it anyway. Does Stuart not have a veg grower t-shirt to wear?
I do, yes. But I thought I'd do enough advertising for Rich.
Fair enough. We'll let that one go. I tell you what, we're going to get a grow along video up now.
Yeah.
Give us a chance to have another break. And then we'll come back and again keep sharing your questions for Stuart and the school garden, the Forest School Garden, teaching kids, and also the charity work that he does. Get thinking your questions. This is going to be the grow along video. Well, yes, indeed, it's time for another grow along. And last week, we decided we were going to grow some spinach seeds. Love spinach, absolutely love the stuff. It's one of the favourite things to grow, and good supply of it will keep us going for quite a while. Now, what I'm doing this time, I'm going to be making these, or using these plug plants to make little modules. And these are the seeds, as you can see. They're fairly easy to use. We're just going to pop a single seed, in each little plug. And these plugs are filled with multi-purpose compost, so nothing difficult at all. We're just going to leave these to carry on and grow and see what we end up with by the end. And eventually we will take these plugs and pot them outside. Of course, I'll be going back over these as they grow. So let's have a think about all the other seeds that we have been growing in this grow along so far. The Hungarian wax chili seeds, I think they were one of the first things to be sowed. They still are not showing any signs of life. It's quite unusual for that, so we keep a close eye on what is going on with those. What else have we got? The leeks, they have started to show signs of life themselves. We're waiting for them to really get bigger and bigger before we move them down to the allotment or somewhere. The onion seeds, they're a good one. The onion seeds, yeah, they're definitely growing now. I think it's not going to be long before we need to get those into the ground and see just quite what we get out of them. And hopefully get, or not so much get them into ground, prick them out. I think they are almost ready for pricking out, so we might do that this week. Cauliflower also doing quite well. Again, they're getting close to the time when they need pricking out. And what else have we got? It's getting a bit of a flummox to try and remember everything that we have been sowing on this grow along. Trying to think. It was saying peas. That's it. The peas. They're down here. They're not showing any signs, but they were only sown last week. Is that everything? I think it is. So here we are, middle of February, end of February, and I'm thinking about what we need to grow next week for the grow along. As always, I invite you to grow along with me, and normally I throw out suggestions, but I'm going to let this one for you guys to decide what we're going to grow or sow this next year. Anyway, I have now got all these spinach plug plants now sown, so we're going to place these over here for the time being. I need something a bit supportive for them first, but we'll let you know how they get on next week. There we go, that is the spinach sown, and I did say over to you guys to decide what we are going to sow next week for the grow along, but as Stuart is right here, I think we should ask Stuart. Stuart, what seeds do you think we should sow?
Well, I'm going to go back to herbs because my basil needs pricking out, so it must be time for sowing some more. I just use your philosophy once a month.
Yeah, herbs. That's a good one. Yeah, we can do basil.
Yeah. My light's going to play up now.
I think I was sowing some basil earlier today, funny enough. But this is the grow along, so we'll do basil next week for anybody else who may be taking part in the grow alongs. I've got to say, I don't know what your greenhouse is like at the moment. My greenhouse is absolutely full. I have to remove stuff just to get in there.
Yeah, I bought some cheap compost the other week, as you've probably seen on Facebook. It's in the greenhouse, so it's in the way. I'll put it in there to obviously keep it dry. So I need to get in there this week in half term and sort it out and start sowing because I'm so far behind. My first sale was not till April this year, so I'm a little bit behind.
Right.
So I will get there. I'll get there.
Yeah. Jenny says Hungarian wax all up, leeks all up and growing well. Broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels all need pricking out. Loads more bits sown, plus shallots starting to germinate. Absolutely love growing. Obviously, a little bit warmer than where I am here. I don't know. I swear this year has definitely so far been the coldest temperatures I've ever experienced here. I don't know what it's like where you are, Stuart, but
yeah, we haven't had prolonged cold, but what the cold we have had has been really cold. We had all that rain, and then we haven't had 10 frosts. Yeah. I don't reckon we've had. I haven't put the heater on in the greenhouse at all this year. Yeah, because I know if I start, that's it. I've got to keep going.
Yeah,
and the fuchsias seem to be okay in there. The old, like last year's fuchsias seem to be okay. So. And that's the only thing. I did take the lemongrass out. I have got 7 pots of lemongrass. So I took them out there in the house. But I don't know. I really don't. That's a question I want to put out there. When can I put it back out? Because it was sown last April. So. I won't be able to harvest it for a year or two, will I? So,
no. Yeah, it's all good fun. I mean, it's funny we mentioned greenhouses. Next week's subject is going to be about greenhouses anyway. I want to find out what people have, if they have a greenhouse, what they use their greenhouse for. So, giving you a bit of a heads up, chance to to think about next week.
Mm.
Digwell says he's on the compost hunt tomorrow, still looking for a decent low-cost compost.
Yeah, peat free. Yeah.
Free. But Adrian has just zapped in as well, and I think Adrian may have a question.
No,
Adrian,
I haven't got a question.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no,
I just came on to show my face.
Fair enough. Adrian's usually there in the comments.
So I do exist, but not just in cyberspace.
Fair enough. Adrian, Stuart is. We're doing a Q&A with Stuart. I know you were a bit late tonight. We're doing a Q&A with Stuart.
Yeah, I was, sorry.
Tonight, and he's a forest school garden teacher for gardening, but also he does growing plants for charity. So, have you done anything like that in the past, Adrian?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh.
I haven't done any growing for a long time. As you know, I'm waiting for my sheep poo to rot down on my plot before digging over, which this year I will be.
Yeah.
So this year was the year.
That ties in with compost, funnily enough. So,
no, I haven't.
Yeah, right. Have you got questions?
I thought I'd just show my face.
Fair enough. Well, I'm gonna, nice as possible, Adrian. I'm going to beat you out of here. Lovely to see you.
Okay.
But we've got questions coming in again, so we'll get back to those. All right, mate.
See you later.
There we go. Sorry about that. Right. Anna says, Stuart, would you have ever liked to career in just horticulture, like working for the RHS or your own business, or is teaching aspect what matters most?
That's a good question. I would never have chose it. I would have never have chose it when I left school. I will say that, because I never started teaching until I was, I'm just going to give my age away here, nearly 40. So, yeah, I come to it very late, gardening. As a child, I was not forced to do it. It's probably the wrong word. It sounds like slave labour. But that's how I earned my pocket money. Weeding the strawberries and like basically weeding or turning the compost or mowing the grass. So it was always a chore to me. But now it's really enjoyable. Yes, I would. If I was starting again at 40, I would probably have done a bit more training, and I'd have had the best of both worlds, because Dad finished up being a gardener and he sold his business to somebody. It would have been lovely to be able to take it on.
Yeah.
But the lady that took it on is amazing, and I still sell her lots and lots of plants. But if I had my time again, I'd probably try to do best of both worlds. Probably teach a couple of days a week and then garden the other 3 days a week. Because as you probably know, teaching money is rubbish. I could earn more gardening round here where I live. I could earn more money a day doing people's gardens for them.
Yeah.
But my stage of life, enjoyment comes first. I love my job, absolutely love it. I wouldn't change it for the world now. So I do think I get best of both worlds, because I do sell a lot for charity. So I garden a lot. I get a lot of people. There's a lot of my plants in people's gardens around here, so that sort of makes me happy. It would have been nice to take Dad's business on. It would have been.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I mean, again, I know my great grandparents ran a nursery, and I never knew him, to be honest. But I think back to that, and I think how great would have that been to take on their nursery. But, that's what I'm aiming to do: run a nursery. I don't think it will ever happen because of the cost of land around here, but it's a nice dream to have.
It is, yeah, and like I wouldn't have been half the gardener I am without Dad, because as he was when he was taken ill, he was teaching me so much about the flower gardening, because he wanted me to carry on doing what he was doing, selling the plants for charity. So I had to learn pretty quick when it came to flower gardening. Veg gardening I never touched until probably lockdown.
Yeah.
Obviously did a little bit at school, but school gardening is completely different. Different.
Of course.
But yeah, so it was really Dad that pushed me into the charity stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just become part of who we are as a family. That's what we've done. That's what we do. You know, we lost Mum, and that's why we got Dad out of the house to get him selling some of his plants, and it just sort of snowballed. So
now I do want to get into the fundraising side of things now more, because this is, I know quite often you'll give us updates throughout the year of how much money earned over the years. So for everyone listening, how does it work? How do you go about selling plants for fundraising?
There's me, my brother, and my youngest sister. We all grow. My brother lives in Cambridge, which is quite away from here, but he will drive down for a couple of 3 of the sales and bring a carload of stuff with him. My other sister the little sister lives like 4 miles away, so she'll grow in her greenhouse, I grow in mine. We both do the same thing. We both buy cheap and then sell it on, and that is like our contribution to the charity. Rather, like, I don't take, if it's cost me say 50 quid for plants, I don't take that out the pot. That is just my donation to the charity. So then, if I spend 50 quid, I've got to sell them for 250, 300 at least to make it worthwhile. So basically, what happened was we lost my mum to a brain tumour. My dad could not be bothered to get out of bed, could not be able to get out, wouldn't go in the garden, and he's always been a gardener. So the lady that worked for him said to him, if you're not going to garden, we're going to strip it and sell it. If you're not prepared to do it, then we're not wasting all these beautiful plants that you've got in your garden. So she basically kicked him up the backside. So I said to him, that's right, Dad, I'll do a sale with you. Me and you do. So we did a local market. We made 250 quid in about 20 minutes. Wow. And that was the sort of the snowball gathering pace. He realised that what he had, all he had left was his garden. So he then kept his garden going, take cuttings, he would bring them on, he'd split plants. So every month we would do a sale and we'd make a bit more money and a bit more money. And then, of course, he got diagnosed with cancer and he said, right, you lot are going to carry this on. So we do. And it's become a bit of a hobby, you know, really. It gets me out of the house. So we normally start in March and finish in September. But the March sale is off because neither of us have been up to it to catch up. So now we've started to sow. So we will be ready in second week in April. So it's the second week of every month. We're at our local village hall. And then if we do 250 quid a pot, that's great. If we don't, we don't, but we try to. And we probably fill 3 6-foot trestles of plants. And the dearest plant we sell is a hellebore. It's £5. And I'm talking a big, like 8-inch pot.
Yeah.
If you go to the garden centre, you're looking at 16, 17 quid.
Yeah.
But these are all plants that are either in my garden, my sister's garden, or my brother's garden that have been split over the winter and you brought them on. Yeah. And then you sell them on. So they are not true. We can't, it might be a pink one in my garden, but by the time it goes to that person's garden, it might be purple. You have to be honest and say they are not. You know, if they're split, they're going to be true. But if you've used the seeds, they're not going to be true.
Yeah.
Or most of the time, they're not going to be true. And then during lockdown, I started selling vegetables because there was a lot more people wanting a garden, and I could not fill my table up quick enough.
Yes, I remember that.
It was crazy. It absolutely went crazy. But the novelties wore off a bit now. So I probably had 15 or 16 new customers come to the house and they would putting orders in. But more than half of them have gone to the wayside, gone back to going to Tesco's to buy their veg. So I have picked up a couple of nice houses that have got like walled gardens and veg patches for the big house that they come and get seedlings off me to save them going to the garden centre. So that's sort of quite good. because that gives me a target to aim for. So if I got to grow, 50 cabbage plants and 60 Brussels sprout plants, that gives me a bit of a target to aim for.
Yeah. How do people find your store? Is it just passing trade, or
it's I stick it on Facebook. I'll say the table's gone outside my house, because the table to go outside my house as well as the sales on Saturday, and then the sale will be advertised on the local radio and in the local paper, and we've got quite a good client base now, so the customers come back every year. It's really good, and you have people saying to me, "I've still got them plants that I got out of your dad's garden." Because when we lost Dad, there's 5 or 6 customers that come every single week. We have a sale. So when we cleared Dad's garden, I invited them round to this house and said, "Look, we can't dig them all up, so you take what you want, and then you put donation in the box."
Yeah,
and that way we outclear his garden a bit, and people got some bargains.
How much money do you think to date you have earned for this?
Over 16,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So the target, I try to put the target up every year, but with the recession, it's quite hard. But we will try to raise another £1,000 this year if we can. But we're really lucky because where we sell, there's a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, so they pull people in as well, and we get a little cut of their profit as well, so that's quite nice. But we get I've now got product or people that provide products are donating products for us to sell on our table. So Spear and Jackson last year sent me a big box of stuff, which I could put on the table and sell. So you Google the price and you have it, and the gardeners get a bargain. Even I had trowels going for £8, but they knew they were 20 quid if they were new. So people got a bargain, but we got rid of the stock. If that made sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to sell for any charity, if you price too high, people won't come back. If you price it fairly, they price it low, they will come back every year.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's really great. It's a really lovely day, and it's work. You make a lot of money, and some days it's raining hard and people don't come out, and it's just the way it is. I do enjoy it.
Well, that's the main thing, isn't it? And you're doing it for charity, so even better. David Williams says, for next week's Grow Along, how about ginger? Well, we've decided. But we might do ginger the week after if I can get some tubers. I've already got some ginger growing, but I know Wilkinson sometimes sell ginger tubers. I've never had much luck with them, but I think we'll try that this year. So the week after we'll do that. Ian Bellow says, I had terrible hay fever as a child, so I hated gardening. Didn't start until my 20s. Is this something you have with the children at your school when they get hay fever and things?
I'm quite lucky, really. We've not got that many. The children with allergies. We have more problem with children that don't like getting their hands dirty. Right. So at the beginning of their school journey, then they don't want to get dirty. By the time they leave me when they're 10 or 11, they're filthy. They don't care, because it's the learning process. It's like when they're little, you dig a hole, they find a worm, they're fascinated. And then as they get older, it's like they're planting a seed. As they get older, they watch it grow. But then when they get to year 5, 6, they're learning about the science of how that seed split and how that plant grows. So you've got to move it on for the older children, because it's not about just sowing a seed. You've got to get some out of it, some science out of it, or some history out of it. So there's ways of getting them children interested. Different ways of getting different children interested. But the hay fever thing is quite hard, because especially living where I live, there's hay fields everywhere, or crop fields everywhere.
Yeah.
So you have got to be a little bit aware of the children's allergies, and it's growing the right plants in the right environment. It's like I'd never take a euphorbia to school, because of the irritantness of it, and it's teaching them that rhubarb leaves are poisonous, potato leaves are poisonous, and so, but they learn, they learn about them things as we go along. You don't want to frighten them from the beginning.
I was going to say, I hope you don't learn by letting them make mistakes when it comes to poisonous stuff.
No,
we a bit of a sacrifice.
No, we make stinging out soup and prove to them that you can eat. There's things out there that you can eat that perhaps you wouldn't eat normally.
Yeah. Rebecca asks, how many years did it take you to qualify as a teacher, Stuart? And did you have to do more studying to do forest schools?
I'm actually not a qualified teacher. I'm a qualified forest school teacher. So my education is different to a teacher. So my forest school training took just over the year. So anybody that's got children and like being outside could probably do it in the same time, if not quicker. I had a full-time job at the time. So I was doing it evenings, weekends to get the training. I did what they call an early years, so like a preschool from 0 to 16 childcare certificate, and then I did my forest school training. It's around about 1,400 quid to do your forest school training. There's no grants out there unless you can find a local grant for outdoor education.
Yeah.
So you have to either pay for it yourself or find that somebody that's prepared to sponsor you. But you can do it in less than a year if you're willing. I just did level 1 and level 3. There's one in between, but I didn't bother with 2 because we were told when we did level 1, don't bother with 2, go straight to 3.
Yeah.
And there is one above that, so then I can teach teachers to teach it. But I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to teach the children. I don't want to teach adults. It's just I'd rather teach children. They're like little sponges. So it is about making it enjoyment. We do the odd team building day at school, but that's not what I like doing.
Sure.
So yeah, it's quite easy. It's not hard. It's not hard. I left school with very little education. Because when I went to school, there was no national curriculum, so you just learned what the teachers wanted to teach you.
Yeah, sure.
So, I left with maths, English, vehicle engineering, and technical drawing.
Yeah.
And now I'm a teacher, or a forest school teacher. So it's if you love being outside and you've got a school that's prepared to help you, do it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Robert Brailsford, can we have a link to Stuart's Facebook, please? I think if you put something in the Facebook group, Stuart, when we finish this show, because Goodwill is also saying, drop me a message when you have a sale and I'll pop up and see you. If you everybody, I know that we're on YouTube and Facebook tonight. Well, we always are when we go live. If you're part of the Facebook group, all the details will be there. Just because obviously there's certain restrictions, GDPR going on as well. So we can't put it for everyone. But yeah, that's what we'll do if you do want to get in touch. I've got one more video to show you, and then we'll come back with the finale. Which one is it? This one.
Well, we are back with some more photos. This first one comes from TurboStream, showing off the leaf mulch that he's applied on his beds. It's all looking great, isn't it? And as you can see, these beds are really starting to come into play, looking nicely tended to and looking fantastic. It's great to see. This is what he started with as well, so it's good to see that things are starting to come along. Now, next we have Billy SPB, who is looking after Ballycillian's allotment while they are away in somewhere sunny. As you can see, there's lots going on, lots of seeds that are in need of care. And these ones particularly caught my eye. I'm not sure what they are, but they look fantastic, whatever they are. Now, Kate has had problems with a greenhouse, something I've had myself, and it looks like I've had similar problems. But there's always that one panel that seems to survive, isn't there? She's also been busy getting these sort of, I don't know what to call them, twin wall polycarbonate windows in place. And her potatoes have arrived. She's starting to get the chip. Fantastic. All different colours as well. Next, we have chili and Phil's cake. Chili and Phil cake. They're a lot of rose raspberries are in, and the lot is coming along again. Apologies for how I've learned that. I'm in a rush. Next, we have Jenny, who's found these chili seeds, which look absolutely gorgeous. Can't wait to see how they turn out and how good they taste as well. She's also been busy sorting out her collection of seeds. These are her seeds, something I know that what it's like. I set up too many seeds. And this is what she ended up sorting them out into nice, tidy organisers. Now, Hargrave Gas has sent this picture of his garden as well. He sent a picture of his greenhouse last week. This is his front garden. I've got to say, what a great looking space. What a great space. Next, Nicola. She's found these small plants in the wooden parts that sort of taken. She's been busy filling up pots of compost ready for the growing season. So back to the studio.
There we go. What a great collection of photos. There's so many more photos to choose this week, but I honestly ran out of time to get that all done. It was like 20 minutes rendering that video off and uploading it before we went live. So it was great to see a good lot of photos. Stuart, you post photos quite often as well. So
yeah, it just shows that it's getting milder because everybody's getting outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I haven't asked anybody to do yet, even though I can see a lot of people have been doing it anyway, please do give us a thumbs up, a like, a follow, and a subscribe. I know I've got to say it, otherwise I get told off, but please do show Stuart some love and what have you. Now, in the final last few minutes before we wind up for tonight, Stuart, have you got any sort of big tip or advice for anybody who just wants to use gardening, just getting into gardening?
Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about making mistakes. That's the biggest thing. Like when I started, there's a field right at the back of my garden. There's no hedge, just a little fence. So if the deer eats your plant another one. Don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. Gardening is supposed to be relaxing. Yes, it can be frustrating, but don't let it wind you up. It just like, if you're feeding the deer, you're feeding a bit of nature, it's fine. You know, because even if, well, I'm sure that's who's at my raw beans, but yeah, it just, I don't know, people get so stressed over it. And why? I just don't. I do get stressed over things. We had Ofsted 2 weeks ago. Get really stressed about that. But garden, you're supposed to relax. If you're not enjoying it, walk away for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Go and sit and have a think. And like, I think that's where people go wrong. They put themselves under pressure. I've done it in the past. I must sow this by a certain date. I must do that by a certain date.
Yeah. Just
relax, and it will happen. I'm so far behind this year; it's unreal. But it will happen. You know, I had to go into hospital for an op, as everybody knows. My sister did as well. So we are behind. We're probably a month behind, but it will catch up. The weather will warm up. Things will germinate quicker, and it will catch up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Digwell is asking what next week's challenge. Each week I like to set a mission for people to do.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Stuart, I'm going to let you choose this week's mission. I'm putting you on the spot a bit here.
Oh.
But as you are the guest, I feel it's only right. You chose the seeds that we're going to sow next week.
As I'm so tight at spending money at school, find a bargain.
Find a bargain.
Find a bargain. Find a bargain. It can be anything. You know, I'm not going to put ideas in people's head, but it can be anything. But it must be garden related.
And is it only available at this time of year, or can we go back to what we found last year?
No, if you got a good bargain 3 weeks ago, show it off. You know, It's because I think we all get excited about a bargain, don't we? You know, when I found that compost in Tesco's, it was a bargain.
Yeah.
And I get so excited about it. I'm terrible. You know, I am. And like I had to buy some stuff for school, and I search and search and search to see if I can save the most amount of money. Because if I can save money on one thing, I can spend more on another. So it's all about getting that one bargain to save yourself some. You know, even if you come to my sale and buy some of my plants, it's a bargain.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's a bit hard, yeah.
A lot of people are loving that idea. Love that idea. Stuart Digwell says, "Find a bargain. I accept that mission."
Good.
Challenge for next week, and it funny enough ties in with something that I'm talking about on the podcast next week as well. So that all works really well, Stuart. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we all walk in the garden centre, and there will be a bargain. There's always a bargain bucket, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, so find a bargain.
You don't always want that bargain, but you end up buying it anyway.
Well, funny enough, I mean, there's a post from Digwell in the group about Van Mowen seeds that were not a bargain. If you are in our Facebook group, go and check that out, and you'll see exactly what he means by that.
I know you had one last week.
Sorry?
Was it the week before? You had a bargain last week or the week before, your veggie pod.
Oh, yeah, that was half price.
Yeah, no, that is a bargain.
Yeah, we've got the stands for it as well for half price as well. So,
brilliant.
Bargain. And the trouble is, this price of compost, I was looking at compost yesterday, that's gone up a lot.
Yeah, I've noticed, because I normally get my compost from the same place, and even his compost has gone up, and it's always been, or the last 2 or 3 years, 3 for a tenner, always. And it's 3 for 13 now, and it's exactly the same stuff. So, but I've noticed the bags are getting smaller.
That too. I've noticed that.
Yeah, that's what sort of, when I'm buying for school and I'm buying 10, 12 bags at a time, I notice that 10, you know, the 10 litres that they've taken out of the bags, you notice that quite a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all right at the moment because I've bought quite a bit. So my I do need to move it into the shed out of the so I can get into the greenhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm searching for compost at the moment, but I've said that compost is probably one of the biggest expenses we have in the garden or on the allotment. And I try and make as much of my own compost as I possibly can. I can never produce enough. No. So I think moving forward, because of this whole trying to save some money, being a bargain, I'm going to look at really ramping up the amount of compost that I can produce to save a fortune in the future.
I think we need to get not just a decent peat-free multi-purpose, we need a decent peat-free seed compost. Yeah. Because don't know anybody else, I cannot find a decent seed compost, but like peat-free.
Yeah, I mean, I find peat-free is so... I mean, I'm all for the banning of peat, so I'll say that. The quality of the peat-free compost is very, very challenging with different brands and even from different branches as well. It's always as good.
I've been really lucky because I've been donated some for school from a peat-free compost company, and they do little pellets that swell. So that's been really good for the kids. But I went to buy some. I thought I'd get some for myself. I'm not paying 20 quid for 100. You know, I'd rather use a paper pot. And then I don't know. I just need to find a decent seed compost. Really, that's the only thing that's really holding me back. So if anybody spots one out there, let us know.
Yeah, please do. Well, Stuart, I've got to say, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight and getting a few Q&As and what have you. I'm sorry if I've missed anybody's question, but Stuart is always in the group if anybody has any other questions. I hope to everybody watching that they've enjoyed this and
I hope so.
Part as well. Stuart, have you enjoyed it?
I have, yeah. And if anybody's got questions and we've missed them, we've not done it on purpose, just chuck it in the group and I will try to answer.
Yeah.
So over the next, it might not be today, but the next couple of days, I'm home for the next couple of days, so I will answer. Either tonight or tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
And give me a nudge if I haven't. Please give me a nudge. You won't offend me.
There we go. And I should say, if anybody else wants to sit in on this Q&A, or anybody else wants somebody else on this Q&A, give us a shout as well, because I think this is something we could do a bit more regularly.
Yeah, dig well.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be somebody people would ask. But yeah, definitely, I think that's something we could look at doing as well a bit more often.
I think it's a good idea, and it's different parts of the country experience the gardening in a different way sometimes as well, because different weather, different climate. You have it a lot warmer than I do. I have it a lot warmer than up north. So it is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Even though we're all doing the same hobby.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Stuart, I'm going to remove you quickly from the studio while I just say goodbye to everyone. But thanks so much once again, Stuart.
No problem.
I'll speak to you soon.
Sweet.
Oh, sorry, I got rid of him just as he was finishing off. Sorry, everyone. Right, well, we have come to the end of this week's live stream. It's been great fun, I've got to say. It's been great chatting to Stuart. Great to get your Q&As. Sorry to everybody if I missed your comments. I normally try and read everybody's comments, I know, which is tricky, but tonight I just couldn't do it. But we will be back again next Sunday. Next Sunday, I want to have the conversation around greenhouses. If you have a greenhouse or not, what do you want for your greenhouse? What do you use? Is it glass? Is it plastic? Anything like that. Just want a conversation to center around greenhouses and what you're using your greenhouse for. That will be next Sunday at 6. On the podcast tomorrow, I've got an interview with Charles Dowding about his new kids' book. It's a really, really good chat, I've got to say. Really looking forward to talking to you about it. And the book is also really, really good. I've read it twice now. Really good book. It's Children's No-Dig Gardening. Anyway, that's on the podcast tomorrow. A couple of videos coming out this week as well, but you'll see all that go throughout this week. Right, I haven't set myself up, but I'm going to quickly bring the closing thing up. There we go. And I'm going to wish you all goodbye and thank you once again. So until next week, you please take care.